Today is another session of Conchas y Café. Today, Abraham is going to be presenting our lesson, taking the lead here. I'm going to be in the background. I'll be, obviously doing the recording, but also checking in on the chat and everything. And with that, I'll give it over to Abraham Ramillo.
So again, hi guys, and sorry if I sound a little weird. I'm a little sick, so just letting you know. What else? Let me share my window. So today we're gonna start with cool quotes. Everybody can see you, or should I zoom in?
It's not too clear.
Okay, let me get maybe a little bit bigger. Better? Oof, that's a lot. There you go. That should do it, right?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay. So the quotes goes like this. We must teach our children to smell the earth, to taste the rain, to touch the wind, to see things grow, to hear the sun rise and night fall, to care. This quote comes from John Cleal. He was born in 1929. He passed away in 2007. He was an artist, craftsman, and teacher born in South Africa. And before we start asking what you guys think about this quote, I'm going to do it in Spanish. So, esta es la cita de hoy. Debemos enseñar a nuestros hijos a oler la tierra, a saborear la lluvia, a tocar el viento, a ver crecer las cosas, escuchar la salida del sol y la caída de la noche para cuidar. Esta cita viene de John Cleal, nació en 1929 y falleció en 2007. Fue un artista, artesano y profesor, nació en Sudáfrica. So what do you guys think of this quote? What do you guys, ¿qué piensan de esta cita?
It's also in the chat if in case you want to reference it in the chat.
Catherine?
It's very tangible. Like there's a sense, touching. It's using the senses so that you're smelling, you're tasting. You're like, oh yeah, I know these things. I've experienced them.
Nice. Yeah, I can see that. Does anybody else have more to say about this one?
Well, I can't explain it truly in words, but I know, like, you can feel like, how can I say this? Without looking at your watch from the sun, you can feel the time of day sometimes. You can just guess at it and you're so close, you're right on it. And then you can feel when rain is coming, especially my bones, my joints, even though it might be sunny outside, but you come in, how do you say, in one with nature.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Does anybody else have something to say about this one? We have Michelle Smith. Michelle, I think you're on mute.
Yes, hi. What I'm thinking about is, in life for us, not necessarily as adults, but you got to stop and smell the roses. You should stop to appreciate these things as a child, because as you get older, you appreciate them even further and further. And yet, you may think, oh, it's just another day, it's another night. You stop to think about it, that night is precious and endearing, and it shows you how to care, because you're not promised for tomorrow. You see the sunrise in the east, it's in the west, so the night will fall, but we don't know, do we? So stop and smell the roses, take the time to appreciate this, and remember this is your world.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely. I think also Moshde posted to experience and feel nature, which may help to understand it better. Which is true, yeah. We need to understand nature a lot, all right? So just for the sake of time, we're gonna move on. And for this one, when I need somebody to read in English, and we're gonna go by paragraph, switching from English to Spanish. And if somebody wants to read in Spanish, go for it. If no, I'll pop in. And again, you just have to do one paragraph, okay? So let's start. Who wants to start the first paragraph?
I'll read.
Thank you.
Like the rest of the family, John is also a master teacher, committed to sharing what has been passed on by generations who come before. What was given to him, he now gives back to the people. Some basket classes I have taken start with a neat pile of materials, all assembled on a clean table. But John doesn't hold with teaching basket weaving, where the splints come ready-made. He teaches basket making, beginning with a living tree.
Thank you. And we're gonna do that one now in Spanish. Does anybody wants to go for that one?
I'll read it.
Thank you, Gustavo.
You're welcome. I'll start with al igual, right? Al
Yes.
igual que gracias. Al igual que el resto de la familia, John también es un gran maestro, comprometido a compartir lo que ha sido transmitido por generaciones anteriores. Lo que le fue dado, ahora lo devuelve a la gente. Algunas clases de canasta que ha tomado comienzan con una pila ordenada de materiales, todos ensamblados en una mesa limpia. Pero John no sostiene la enseñanza de la castería donde las tablillas vienen listas. Él enseña la castería. La cestería, how do you say that? Cestería.
Cestería. Sí, cestería.
Oh, es el castería. Cestería donde las tablillas vienen listas. Él enseña la cestería comenzando con un árbol vivo.
Thank you. Can somebody read the next paragraph, please? We're gonna switch to English now.
I'll do it.
Thank you very much.
Black ash, Bacchus nigra, likes to have its feet wet in floodplain forests and edges of swamps. Black ash mingles with red maples, elms, and willows. It is never the most common tree. You only find it scattered in scattered patches, so it can take a long day of trumping over root-sucking ground to find the right tree. Scanning a wet forest, you can pick out the black ash by its bark. You pass by maples with bark of rigid gray plates, the braided forky ridges of elm, the deeply furrowed willows, and instead seek out the fine pattern of interlocked ridges and warty knobs of black ash. The knobs feel spongy under your fingertips when you give them a squeeze. There are other species of ash growing in the swamp, so it's good to check the leaves overhead as well. All ash, green, white, blue, and black, have compound leaves borne opposite one another on stout forky twigs.
Thank you. And do anybody wants to read the next one in Spanish? I'll do that one then. Okay. Al fresno negro, Fraxinus nigra, le gusta mojarse los pies. En los bosques de llanuras y aluviales y en el borde de los pantanos. El fresno negro se mezcla con arces, olmos y sauces rojos. Nunca es el árbol más común. Solo lo encuentras en parches dispersos, por lo que puede tomar un largo día pisoteando terrenos chupabotas para encontrar el árbol correcto. Al escanear un bosque húmedo, puedes distinguir el fresno negro por su corteza. Pasas justo arces con corteza de rígidas placas grises. Las crestas corchosas trenzadas de los olmos, los sauces profundamente surcados, y en su lugar buscas el fino patrón de crestas entrenzadas y verrugosas protuberancias de los fresnos negros. Los nudos se sienten esponjosos bajo las yemas de los dedos cuando los aprietas. Hay otras especies de fresnos que crecen en el pantano, por lo que también es bueno revisar los ojos en las hojas en lo alto, perdón. Todos los fresnos verdes, blancos, azul, calabaza y negro tienen hojas compuestas que nacen una frente a la otra, ramitas robustas y corchosas. And now the next one, can somebody go for it in English?
I will.
Thank you.
And yet it's not enough to simply find black ash. It has to be the right one, a tree ready to be a basket. An ideal basket. Ash has a straight, clear bowl with no branches in the lower trunk. Branches make knots that interrupt the straight grain of the splint. A good tree is about a hand breadth across the crown, full and vigorous, a healthy tree. A tree that has grown directly up toward the sun will be straight and fine-grained, while those that have wandered a bit to find the light show twists and turns in the grain. Some basket makers will choose only trees perched on a hammock in the swamp, while others will avoid a black ash growing next to a cedar.
Thank you. Can somebody try that one in Spanish, please?
I'll give it a shot.
Thank you.
Y, sin embargo, no es suficiente simplemente encontrar un fresno negro. Tiene que ser el correcto. Un árbol listo para hacer una canasta. Un fresno de cesta ideal tiene un fuste recto y claro, sin ramas en la parte inferior del tronco. Las ramas forman nudos que interrumpen la fibra recta de la ferula. Un buen árbol tiene un palmo de ancho, la copa llena y vigorosa. Un árbol saludable. Un árbol que ha crecido directamente hacia el sol será recto y de grano fino, mientras que aquellos que se han desviado un poco por encontrar la luz muestran giros y vueltas en el grano. Algunos cestros elegirán solo árboles posados en una hamaca en el pantano, mientras que otros evitarán un fresno negro que crece junto a un cedro.
Thank you. Can somebody try the last part in English?
Can do that.
Thank you.
This is Jerry.
This is Jerry, my friend. It's okay that he reads. He was so impressed the other day with everybody that he wanted to sit in with us. Can he read?
Yes, for sure.
Of course, right?
Okay. Okay, so starting with trees, right?
Yes.
Are we starting with? Okay, trees are affected by their sapling days as much as people are by their childhood. The history of a tree appears in its growth rings, of course. Good years yield a wide ring, poor years a thin one. And the pattern of rings is critical to the process of basket making, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. And can somebody try in Spanish? ¿Alguien puede hacer la última parte en español?
I can take that one off.
Thank you, Luis.
Yeah. Los árboles se ven afectados por sus días de retoño, tanto como las personas por su infancia. La historia de un árbol aparece en sus anillos de crecimiento, por supuesto. Los años buenos producen un anillo ancho, los años malos uno delgado. y el patrón de los anillos es fundamental para el proceso de elaboración de canastas.
Thank you very much. This is from a, I was gonna say tree, from a book that I really like. It's called Braiding Sweetgrass. This you can find on page 142 and 143. It's a book by Robin Wall Kimmerer, born 1953. He's an American distinguished teaching professor of environmental and forest biology and director, Center for Native People and the Environment at the State University of New York College of Environmental Science and Forestry, as well as an author of many books and articles. Como estaba diciendo en inglés, que esta es una parte de un libro que me gusta mucho, que se llama Trenzando Hierba Dulce, y lo puedes encontrar en la página 142 a 143. El libro es de Robin Wall Kimmerer, nacida en 1953. Es una profesora de enseñanza distinguida estadounidense de biología ambiental y forestal y directora del Centro de los Pueblos Indígenas y el Medio Ambiente de la Facultad de Ciencias Ambientales y Silviculturales de la Universidad de Estados Unidos Estatal de Nueva York, así como autor de muchos libros y artículos. So, what do you guys think about this fragment of the book? What do you guys think, what we just read? ¿Qué piensan de lo que acabamos de leer?
It reminds me of the last book, well, the book before last that we wrote about our connection with food.
Yeah, definitely. It speaks a lot of connections, right?
Yeah. So the last paragraph kind of like sums it up, leaving all that middle part out. You know, it just, you know, shares with us what it's all about, us connecting, like you said.
Definitely has a lot of connections. Sorry, let me try to see who. Gustavo says hi, team. Oh, never mind.
Karen wrote in the chat, I learned a lot.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything to say about this one? Definitely carries a lot of messages, and just wanted to hear what your opinion is.
I'm kind of curious. Did anyone feel like there was a particular image that they got in their mind?
We're nature made. You know, our hair, our skin, our whole being, our total being. I mean, we're just we're from the dirt. That's our roots. I mean, you know, we said, what are your roots? Yeah, that's our roots. The foundation of the earth. That's our roots.
Yep, why not? We have also David.
So what I appreciate about it is how it illustrates the complexity of things that we take for granted, like a basket. You know, we just think of it as a basket, but there's much more to it. There's the construction of it and trying to find the right materials. You know, we take for granted everything. We have everything comes from a store, we can just pay money and get it, but all that stuff came from somewhere, was either built or, you know, manufactured or harvested or whatever and whatnot, even down to food we take for granted. So it just kind of illustrates how everything needs to be created or built in some way.
It definitely speaks of a process of where things come from, definitely, right? Well, for me, I really love this book because the author has an interesting way of looking at things. Because if you go to a forest, you will see trees and things like that. But the way she sees things, because she studied biology and all that, she sees the connection of things. For example, she's speaking about the connection with other plants, how this thing grows, how does it look, and also the connection of humans to the plant and the culture, because she's talking about culture of basket makers, right? So she has a lot of ways, and she describes a lot of things, which is the point of the today's lecture. So we want to move on to why are we talking about these, right?
Well, Mojde, I think Mojde
Oh, sorry.
also in the chat, Mojde put, it illustrates the impact of nature on our life in many aspects, which is, I definitely think what Abraham is trying to illustrate here.
Yes, and definitely. And throughout the book, she speaks a lot of different things about how we are connected to nature, and how we also screwing up nature, right? Because we don't understand it the way she does. Again, I didn't know about these little features of trees and how they're connected to each other. And if you don't know that, how you gonna protect it, right? I think that's one of the main things.
And also, just
today,
one thing.
I'm sorry.
Well, just one thing I think that I want to make sure that we call out is that very last paragraph, right? The very last paragraph tells us that trees are affected by their childhood the same way that we are. There's a very distinct parallel that the author is making for us. In the good times, there's going to be a healthy growth, and in the bad times, there's going to be a lack of development. So keep that in mind as you think about what we just read.
And it goes with the
also,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Gustavo?
No, go ahead. Or I was
go for it, Gustavo. Go for it.
Go for it. Okay. Yeah, I was reminded because I did know about some of the stuff talked about, because David Fallon, I'm not supposed to speak for anyone else, I suppose, but when we were kids, when we were like 11, 12, 13, we would be around nature, and we would take risks and eat from nature. Like we didn't, or maybe I should speak for myself. I didn't know, even though it was us, both of us, but still, I didn't know if something was going to be poisonous or not. But by trial and error, we didn't get sick. But we would always say, like, if there was a disaster, we would survive, because we knew where every avocado tree was, and when it was going to give fruit, or what. I don't even know how to say it in English anymore. But when cuando se iba a cosechar, cada fruta, like when the oranges would ripen.
Harvest time.
Yeah, harvest time. Exact. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I said in Spanish. But yeah, and then we would, like, there was grasses, different types of grasses, and we named them our own name. Like, one of them was in a shape of a heart, so we would eat hearts. Like we beautiful little plants that were in the shape of a heart, and stuff like that. But and then the other thing is, at the very, very end, when they talk about braiding the braiding the sweetgrass, because there's deergrass and sweetgrass. And I'm just learning that more recently. When I joined AIM, American Indian Movement, I've learned a little more about, say, sweetgrass and deergrass and all these natural grasses that have been in California and in the Americas for, millions of years. And the grasses. And then, and so my friend Dee Dee, who's now the chairperson of AIM, American Indian Movement, Southern California, she braided me a deergrass and she gave it to me. I hope I can still find it at home. But anyway, I'm just trying to make a connection. I wish I learned. I wish I knew. Some people say, wish in one hand and spit in the other. See, which hand fills up the fastest. Like, in other words, don't wish, just take action. And I learned that from my other friend that's to my left here. But anyway, but sometimes I do wish that I knew more about the deergrass and sweetgrass, and more about all this, nature. But that's it for me for right now. That was my input.
Well, I know what you're saying, because I say I'm from the old school, because my grandparents raised me, and they used to have this tree, and it's called a sassafras tree, and it's like the big sass that we use, and there are a lot of things that, the little sour weeds. Remember chewing the sour weeds when you're a kid? No, that was
yeah.
We had the sour weeds. Yeah, we had all of that stuff, and so we gotten away from really relying on nature. We've gone pharmaceutical. Yeah, but a lot of those things, helped us through our sickness. Grandma knew what to do.
Yeah, definitely that speaks a lot about the connection between us and nature. So that's pretty nice. As far as we get away from nature, we forget about how vital is in our existence. This is from Moshden. Yep, definitely. And just for the sake of continuing, so today we're gonna talk about descriptive writing. So today vamos a hablar de escrito descriptivo. So the way we're gonna work today, this is gonna be a different way of working, is I'm gonna give you the description of the word, and you guys gonna give me an example, okay? So be on your toes, okay? So the first definition we're gonna talk about is sensory detail. Uses the five senses: sight, touch, sound, taste, and smell to add depth of detail to writing. Detalle sensorial. Utiliza los cinco sentidos: vista, tacto, oído, gusto y olfato para agregar profundidad de detalle a la escritura. Y como le estaba diciendo en inglés, ahora lo que vamos a hacer es, como les acabo de dar la descripción, y alguien necesito que me pongan un ejemplo, ¿ok? So, before I start calling out people, just raise your hand for this one. Otherwise, I'm gonna do eeny, miny, mo.
I don't know if I'm going to do the exercise right, but I'll just go for it. For sight, any colors that are around, any colors that any objects are, any feelings of when you touch something, the sensation, whether it's coarse, smooth, pointy, prickly. Sounds could be loud or quiet. Taste could be delicious or and delightful, and smelling can be perfume or something stinky.
Definitely. And again, yeah, thank you. You kind of explained it, but the next one, can we just make it like a sentence or something really like a actual,
Okay.
like a little bit writing? But you got. I mean, you were right. You were right. And it doesn't have to have all of them. It's just like a quick example. Thank you, Catherine. That was pretty good. For the next one, we have characterization. Is a description of a character's physical traits, how a character looks, points of view, personality, private thoughts, and actions. Caracterización es la descripción de los rasgos físicos de un personaje, cómo se ve el personaje, ¿verdad? Puntos de vista, personalidad, pensamientos privados y acciones. So who wants to give an example of this one? ¿Quién quiere dar un ejemplo de esto?
I want to try that one. We used to do some cliches when I was a kid, and it says that your eyes are like the moon. Let me see. Your eyes are like the sun. It's yellow. And your teeth are like the moon. It comes out at night. How else does that go? I can't think of it. Okay,
description. Michelle can help you, I guess.
Okay. See, description Michelle, of character, physical traits.
Michelle, did you raise your hand, or was it an accident?
Yeah, I thought I had it, but I missed it.
Go for it, Michelle.
You hear me? All I can say is, like this saying that goes, your eyes are like the window. Your eyes are like the window to your soul. So the saying that goes, your eyes are like the window to your soul, and that's true. It tells you about your eyes are the window to your soul. That could be your physical traits. It could be a point of view.
Definitely.
Your personality, a person's thoughts and actions. I'm sure everybody's heard that before, right? Your eyes, his eyes are the windows to his soul. And in regards to the tree branches, the moss, the stickiness, that you want to put feel it in your hand when you touch it, like soft and spongy, mossy like, cold, clammy. That's it. That's what I'm thinking about around the tree.
Well, yeah, if you were gonna characterize the tree, definitely you can say this tree has these textures, these colors, right? It's a black tree. It has these branches, and it's really tough and likes the wetness of the ground, right? That kind of give you a little bit of personality if you think about it. And if you want to go into more fantasy, you can say this tree is wise, right? Giving more personality. So basically, that's being characterization of the tree, right? Or you can do it as a person, right?
Mm-hmm. Tall and wise without being overbearing or being intimidating.
Yeah. And so the next one is observational writing. Comedians are keen people watchers, and some of them best humor is observational. Many base their shows around describing an everything, an everyday object or event in a minute and hilarious detail, choosing the absurdity of it all of it to hinge their humor around. Escritura observacional. Los comediantes son entusiastas observadores de personas y algunos de los mejores humores son de observación. Mucha, muchos basan sus programas en la descripción de un objeto o evento cotidiano en detalle minúsculo e hilarante, eligiendo lo absurdo de esto para anclar su humor. So, examples for this. Just give me an example of something you will be, observational.
I did provide a couple of examples in written form of sensory detail and characterization if it helps in the chat.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you can mention, for example, in the morning, how do you guys will describe the way you guys make the coffee? Describe it, right? Who makes coffee here? Hopefully not just me.
It's instant coffee nowadays.
But remember, you have to give me details, okay? What it makes coffee.
About this observational thing, someone told me this, and it's not mine, but cottage cheese can't decide if it's a liquid or a solid.
So yeah, basically, but yeah, that's basically if you notice that it's a thing, right? So basically, this is, for example, when you go into a bus and you start seeing the type of people who's riding the bus, you can say, okay, as I walk through the bus, there's this crazy person at the front who I decided to avoid. Then I'm looking for the seats, and I saw one seat that's open, but it's a guy sleeping, really snoring, right? And you start describing that way, right? Like, I prefer to just stand up because I don't want to be bothered, right? So you start describing things that you observe with your own eyes.
Oh, you know,
detail, right?
Brother Abraham, I wrote a piece on, matter of fact, I got a book called An Unusual Bus Ride. And I described this one man, he's sitting on the bus and he has a vest on, and he has a button on his vest, and in place of love, he has a heart. And then he's talking to himself, and then he's waving his hand as if he was ushering somebody into a seat. And then he has these bags that make him a bag man instead of a bag lady. And he's putting trash from the floor into the bag, and so this is my observation of him. And then I'm looking out the window of the bus, and then I see a butterfly go by, and I'm watching the butterfly go in and out the window, so those are some of the observations that I saw, that I wrote about.
Excellent. That's exactly what we're talking about. Perfect. Thank you, Luis. And so we're going to move to the next one. And this one you guys probably heard before. Showing versus telling. They're not show. Showing is about using description and action to help the reader experience the story. Telling is when the author summarizes or uses exposition to simply tell the reader what is happening. Mostrar contra contar. Y esta frase probablemente la han escuchado en otro lugar, es muy famosa. En pocas palabras, mostrar se trata de usar la descripción y la acción para ayudar al lector a experimentar la historia. Contar es cuando el autor resume o usa la exposición para simplemente decirle al lector lo que está sucediendo. So this one, who has a good example of this one? I think Mauricio has one.
Yeah, Mauricio posted one in the chat,
Okay.
which works, I think, for both observational and also the showing versus telling.
Let's read it. The crowd gathering around the glass entrance of the electronics store. Bellies full of turkey and gravy, ready to strike, hunting for the new TVs. Yeah, this is observational, definitely. Mm-hmm. Thanks you, Mauricio. And so for show versus telling, who has an example for this one? I know it could be tricky, but we have listened to these ones before a lot, especially when we're talking about books, we have listened to this one before.
I'm on a roll now. I got another one.
Bring it.
Yeah. As she walked up, you could tell she was angry without saying a word. She came and she put her hands on her hips and started stomping her feet and then rolling her head as well as rolling her eyes and then taking her hand and pointing her finger, shaking it in her face.
Excellent, Luis. This one has a little bit of both. So at the beginning, you kind of just tell me, at the beginning, you kind of just tell me that she was angry, but then they should show us how she got angry. So it has both. So it's an excellent example. Very good. You're on fire today.
Well, I told you I'm retired. I write a lot, and so I just recall these things that are stuck in my computer.
Nice. Thanks. So for the next one, we're gonna use simile. A simile is a figure of speech that compares two different things in an interesting way using the word like or as. The purpose of simile is to spark an interesting connection in a reader's or a listener's mind. Simile. Un simile es una figura retórica que compara las cosas diferentes de una manera interesante usando la palabra igual que o como. El propósito de usar simil es generar una conexión interesante en la mente del lector o del oyente. So who has a good example of this? I'm pretty sure you guys can handle this one. Tick, tack, no pressure.
Okay. I used to teach this in my classes, but the punk rock and skate punk group Suicidal Tendencies has this has a song where I'm trying to remember the words, but it's called "How Can I Laugh Tomorrow When I Can't Even Smile Today?" And they're talking about the pain, but he says that it's the exact words are kind of like the scent of a rose with words I can't explain. So that's a simile.
Definitely, yeah. You're comparing something that may not look like, but you connect it to the feeling, and that's what's giving you, right? A nice way of speaking. Pretty good, Gustavo. And also, Luis, the moon is like a wheel of cheese. Definitely. Maybe. Who knows? Oh, so we managed to get to the favorite part. You guys' favorite part of the class, homework. So, for homework, one has to experience and love nature in order to understand it and know how and why to save it. So, with this in mind, go out. Find a place where you can experience nature and describe to us with detail the nature you encounter. Make us love it and make us want to protect it. Okay? So la tarea. Uno tiene que experimentar y amar la naturaleza para comprenderla y saber cómo y por qué salvarla. Así que con esto en mente salgan, busquen un lugar donde puedan experimentar la naturaleza y descríbanos con detalle la naturaleza que encuentren. Hagan que la amemos y que la queramos proteger. So, any questions for the homework? So again, we're gonna use all, like not all, but you can use some of these ways of describing. So when you go out there and encounter nature, and again, you may not have the chance to go and like hike or camp, but you can definitely like either watch a documentary, but be sure you can describe things, and it can be really in a poem or a short story, or you can also go to the park, to the zoo. It's a bunch of places you can experience nature, right?
Your backyard, your front yard, your balcony, anywhere.
Your private park, yeah, I don't know.
There is actually a another simile example in the chat from Mauricio. He wrote, "The storm is like a wronged lover, destroying everything in her path." It's a good one.
Ooh, Tina's also going field trip.
Yeah. Good opportunity.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
By the way, since I do see also Gustavo is taking pictures of the screen, the homework will be on the Google Classroom, so you can read the homework there, and also the handout was also uploaded to Google Classroom, so you can access the handout now too. If
I
you
have
want
a
to review it.
question.
Yes, Ms.
Bring that on.
Can it be a still life, nature, a tree or a bush?
Definitely.
Yes, definitely. And again, think about how you're gonna describe it. It's all about describing. You want us to put us in the place or the mode of the feeling of the place, but use a lot of descriptives, right? That's what we're trying to get. And if you go as like a extra credit, try to find connections, like in the way the writer of the book did, right? How the things that you see have connection to each other, right?
Can I connect nature and spiritual together?
That's up to you. Definitely. Like Gustavo was also making connections about his childhood and the way he was looking for food with his friend. So that's another way of talking about connection. Also, different plants that you saw that are connected to other ones, or animals, or maybe you had a puppy. I don't know. We'll see. Remember, use describe. It's a lot of descriptives.
I think a key thing also to remember about descriptive writing is that it's really going to function a lot better if you really focus on the sensory detail. And the best way to focus on the sensory detail is to use as many nouns as you can. Remember, a noun is a person, place, or thing. So if you can make something sound as if it was another thing using essentially metaphor, you can really give us a stronger sense of what that thing is like. In doing that, you are characterizing it. Like if you look at the example of sensory detail that I used, or that I shared in the chat, I wrote, "The dirt is velvety and warm to the touch, spongy, chocolate in granule form, a brownie from Mother Earth." Right? So there I'm trying to really use nouns more than anything to describe what the dirt feels like. It's texture, it's even maybe taste, if you were to try and transport yourself there in thinking of a very rich soil as if it was a brownie.
So yeah, like Louis saying, when you go there, try to block all the senses and just focus one by one. I think that will give you a better understanding and absorbing like all the different senses. When your pen or your phone, nowadays you can text on your phone, so you can start writing and say, "I hear this," and then I start smelling that, and I still like, you can go and touch stuff except it is poop, right?
Yeah, don't touch poop. Yeah.
Don't do it unless you're an expert.
Quick question. So we can use any of the, I'm sorry to take away from the poop. So any of them, we can use sensory detail, characterizations, observation, showing, telling. We can use all of them in our writing.
Yeah, you don't have to use all of them. You can use one, two,
Okay.
up to you. And these are like some of the ways people use describing, right? How to describe things. And there's even more things and ways to describe things, like emotionally describing something versus something more, what's it called? Like the way the writer is doing it, it's more, sometimes she describes things more scientifically, right? And then you can describe more passionately as well, right? So there's a lot of ways of describing things, and it's up to the style or the way you're trying to write something, right?
Another thing too to keep in mind is that the more you practice this, the more they start to become the same. You know, the more you use sensory detail, the more you're actually characterizing something. You know, characterization isn't just the characters' physical traits, it's also the physical traits or the point of view of, say, like a tree. Think about the way that the bark was described in the piece of writing that we read. It was furrowed, it was ashen, dark, warty, corky, soft. You know, those were some really important words. Those are adjectives that were used to describe the bark of the different types of trees. And those are characterizations of the trees too. So not only are we using sensory details to describe the tree bark, but also we're painting the picture of it in our minds as we read it. You know, the showing versus telling, it really does end up becoming showing the more you use sensory detail, the more you use nouns and adjectives in a way that really demonstrates for us the way in which something exists. The difference between a metaphor and a simile is that a simile uses the words like or as. You know, something is like it, like another thing. The way that I wrote it in the example, the moon is like a wheel of cheese. But if you take out the word like and you just write the moon is a wheel of cheese, it changes into a metaphor. Because obviously we know that the moon isn't made out of cheese. We know the moon is not a wheel of cheese, but the moon looks like that now in our mind because of the sensory detail that it creates for us.
And remember, the whole point is for you to make the reader be in the place or to see the way you're seeing things or hear the things you're listening, right? It's to put into that context and that place. And we want people to understand nature to a certain degree, right? To make them understand how we see nature. So that's kind of the main point of it.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Mauricio in the chat gives us an example of a singer using metaphor. If you do take time to sit in nature in any way that you can, you know, whether that's just even listening out the window, you know, you'll start to experience things once you really begin to focus on what you hear, what you smell, you know, and what you feel coming through the window. Um, and you'll find that your description of that, the more you try to use those sensory details, the more they start to sound like you're using things that are familiar to you to describe the unfamiliar.
And again, if you find yourself not able to go out there, that's a bunch of documentaries you can probably watch, and it's a lot of nice ones that you can check it out. You can start by that, and again, you're putting your experience there.
Mm-hmm.
So, any more questions, guys, for this one? Any of the keywords that we use today for describing sensory detail, characterization, observational, show versus telling, simile, any of those? You're welcome to ask since we're here. We still have some time.
Interesting homework, says Moshe.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a fun one, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I think, you know, use as much detail as you can when you first start. Once you start to craft your poem or your story or whatever it is, you can start to kind of edit things out a little bit, but really start off with as much detail as possible, just even by making a list. A way that you can do that right now is you know, practice with like an object that's next to you, pick it up and start describing that object with as many details as you can. It's a good exercise for you to do. And once that puts you in that mindset, in that frame of mind, then you can translate that over into being outside, being in nature.
Yes. That's how the cookie crumbles, guys.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
In Spanish, it says mostrar.
Mostrar contra
Contar.
Contar.
Contar. It's the same thing. Oh, never mind. I see it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I have a question. So sorry, I had to walk away for a couple minutes, so I missed something. Are we supposed to be writing this right now and then we'll share it in a few minutes? Or are you talking about our homework?
No, this is homework. If you want to do exercise right now, it's like Louis saying, you can just check an object that's next to you. If you guys want to do that, we have time. You guys can check an object that's nearby you. Or for example, Gustavo, you have a person next to you. If you were able to describe this person or him to you, that'll be a nice exercise. And we can share it if you guys want to. If you guys want to, we can do that, definitely.
All right, I'll take that in and take action somehow. Yeah.
I think that is a good question to ask the group, though. Do you all want a chance to practice this right now? Or are we feeling like we have a lot
I'm
to
listening
digest?
to everybody talk and I'm writing down everything that you're saying.
Okay.
I'm getting my hints, my
Luis
notes.
is on fire.
I'm getting some notes. Keep talking.
I see that Mauricio is actually going outside right now to practice. Okay. Yeah, listening is good. You know, taking the time to absorb the information is good.
Yeah, again, a good exercise, definitely what I have fun is like, because sometimes we're trying to put all our senses into one, because that's how our brain kind of works. So it's good to just keep all the senses, just focus on one first, and then the other one, and then the other one, so it has more detail that way.
Yeah, you were speaking about detail, and I haven't looked at any object, but I'm writing down round, wide, hair, bald, heavy, rough, beautiful, tall. So,
Definitely, but again, what is beautiful? Remember that. That because that's the descriptors that are a little too fast.
Mm-hmm.
You may want to be a little more specific. Like why
no,
is it beautiful?
these are just some things I'm putting down.
No, I know. No, but I'm just giving you a tip. Like, don't just say tall person. Say how tall, right?
Yeah.
Or how small is the person describing how tall.
Oh, I got to
is
write that word small.
Yeah.
These are just some things. You say details, and so, these are just some things I'm writing down.
So another one is comparing things, right?
It could be sticky.
For us to put in context, like you were saying, something small, how small, right? Small as a dog, small as an ant, as small as a car compared to a building.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about context, right? And how you comparing things, how much detail you want to put in there.
Because I heard someone say a while ago, stinky.
Yep.
And then I thought about sticky. I'm thinking about a little snail. You know how they slimy?
It's a good question, San Juanita. San Juanita's asking in the chat, does it have to be beautiful? I mean, it was once beautiful, flowers, but it is now dying. I don't think that, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? And to talk about beauty, we need to actually be way more concrete. The main part of this exercise that Abraham is giving you is to really challenge yourself in being as specific as possible. So if you're going to talk about a dying bouquet of roses or flowers, that's going to really challenge you to not focus on what the standard of beauty is, but what it is that in fact makes them beautiful, even in the process of dying. You could talk about the way that the stem is still sturdy, still standing, still has some form of green to it. You can talk about, the fibers that come outside reaching out from within. You could talk about the small changes in the color and the way that the color kind of goes from maybe a brown to a yellow to maybe a little bit more of a yellow-green, you know, and begin really thinking in the terms of nouns. Again, nouns are going to be your best friend. You know, nouns include things like colors, numbers. Nouns can be actual objects like hair. Um, it can be the fuzz of, like, say, a peach. You know, just qualify them with another noun.
Unfolded.
Unfolded is more of a preposition.
No,
You
no,
know,
no. What I'm saying is that, like in our science class, and we used to have this, I can't remember what it's called, but it had the process of a plant growing
Mm-hmm.
and how it unfolds. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's a greenery, and then it's a bud, and then
Yeah.
it
The
you know, it
bloom.
just starts unfolding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the blooming. Yeah.
Yeah. Photogenic thing.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've been in school.
Photosynthesis, I think, is what you were referring to. Right?
I forgot a whole lot.
Yeah. But yeah, you know, try to push yourselves to really think in the terms of nouns, right? Because nouns are what really are going to give you more of a concrete understanding of the world in writing. It's really the basis of all metaphor. You know, you could describe a rose in a way that makes it sound like you're talking about more than just the rose by itself. You know, you could talk about a chipmunk feeding itself, and you know, in talking about it in the context of what we understand as humans, you know, that chipmunk is going to start to actually take on characteristics that are more human, therefore becoming a metaphor for life, human life.
If we wrote something, can we share it?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, bring it on.
Abraham kind of said, write about what's next to you, so I did.
Yes, bring it on. Love it.
It's really short. Okay. There's a pile of papers on the passenger seat. They look haphazard and confused, like little lost lambs of Snow White. On closer examination, you can see scribbles covering the pages. The harsh black pen marks feel desperate. Someone was trying to take notes on these pages, trying to find meaning in what is essentially meaningless.
Excellent. Yes,
Very good.
a lot of
Great.
descriptives, even characterization. You put in
Mhm.
stuff there. That's great.
Yeah.
Homework's done.
Yeah, very good, David. Thank you for sharing that.
He described
David's
my
homework,
paper.
not Tina's homework. You still have to do yours.
Very good. Very good.
Mine will be done an hour before class.
Ooh, I see
Just
Mojde
kidding.
added something in the chat. Mojde, would you like to read it for us?
Yes, it's evening, and before the sunset, the sun switches its yellow, shiny color to pink pale before the darkness of night overcomes.
Great characterization, for sure.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Mojde. David approached this exercise using more observational and simile than anything, whereas Mojde used a little bit more of characterization and observational. So it's like I was saying before, the more you do this kind of exercise, the more you're going to see that a lot of these things are going to blend together. You're going to end up using a lot of them to reinforce each other in creating the visual. Does anyone else have anything to share or any final observations? Well, if no one has any last questions or anything, then I'm going to go ahead and cut off our recording. And yes, next week we will be sharing. So next week we'll have another workshop session where you'll get to break out into breakout rooms. Next week I'll be there, and yeah, we'll be able to give everyone an opportunity to share what they worked on throughout the week. I'm glad that you're excited to go out and observe. And just to reiterate one more time, you know, this exercise doesn't have to require you to go outside, right? It can be something that you can do from inside if you aren't able to go outside. You can even try to do it from memory if memory helps. Nice. I see Heidi is shared. Heidi, would you like to read for us what you wrote?
Yeah. My peony flowers suddenly bloomed. It surprised me very much. I like the purple and the grace of purple flowers.
Excellent.
Because this flower is very special, you know. So other flower is very smaller, but this is very big. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, peonies are lovely. Yeah, and if Heidi, if you wanted to continue writing this, I would then, from what you already started, you can then start to describe the peonies a little bit more, right? Characterize them for us. Tell us what they are like. Give us an example of a peony as actually, in all of its physical traits and all of its characteristics. So yeah, good job, good
Yeah,
start.
even in her case, even in Hades' case, she can talk about how it looks like and also the connection she has to it.
Yeah.
Because it has a past, and that helps us characterize the flower, or mainly the writer, right?
Exactly. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Abraham, for taking the lead this week, giving us a great lesson. I'm going to go ahead and close out our recording here, but we'll stay on a couple more minutes if in case you have any questions. For everyone watching on YouTube later, I hope you all have a good night.